Watching Car Babble, I'm Ewan, and this is the 2018 Audi Q5 40 TDI S-Line Quattro. Now, in a world of utterly ridiculously priced new cars and EVs coming on board, which are even more expensive, if you're looking for a premium mid-size SUV and you want to try and get into one without it absolutely rinsing you, well, I'm going to try and make a case for this Audi Q5 as a used buy, because I think there's quite a lot of value to explain here. So if you enjoy my videos, don't forget to like and subscribe, otherwise buckle up and let's get into it. Now, there's quite a few different powertrains to choose from with this Q5, and after the facelift in 2020 there was even more because you got hybrid technology. But in this pre-facelift, I want to really focus on this 40 TDI 4-cylinder diesel that I've got here, and this is probably the pick of the range for most people because it's a really good blend of performance and economy. This one has 187 brake horsepower, 400 newton meters of torque, and it'll do 0 to 60 in 7.8 seconds, and it feels quick enough. If I put my foot down, it takes a long time to kick down, but that's pretty typical of a 7-speed dual clutch S-tronic gearbox. They're really not great for that, but once you get going, there's enough power there to overtake, and that's really all you're after. Certainly if you want a faster Q5, there's options there, and they'll not be as efficient as this, but I'll put all the specs up on the screen now for you so you can read about them. But yeah, I really think this is the best blend of performance and economy. This is averaging 40.2 mpgs over a long period of time. Not quite sure how long that is that the owner of this car's had that for, but that is reasonably good fuel economy. So yeah, I would say if you were getting that overall out of this thing, considering it's still got enough poke and the size of the car, yeah, I'd be happy with that. No, I don't have any specialist timing gear, but I'm going to floor it for you off the line anyway. Oh, that took like a second and a half to do anything. But it's going now. That's 50, 60, yeah. That's 7.8 seconds, I'd say that's about right. But this S-tronic gearbox, it's my main issue with Audis, and I've had an Audi of my own, and yeah, any 4-cylinder engine from Audi basically has this dual clutch, and it's great at meshing the gears together. It's very smooth, but I find when you put your foot down, there's quite a lot of lag, whether it's at low speeds, off the line, or really even at high speeds. Just whenever you really ask for a lot of throttle, it seems to take a while to figure it out, and I do find that sometimes annoying. I feel like it's been set up to be quite an efficient gearbox in terms of how it uses your fuel, but there is ways around that, and that's if you go into sport mode, the drive mode select button, you can customize that really well. When you get in there, it will change the throttle response a bit, it'll hold the gears higher, it'll stiffen up the steering, and yeah, things do get better. So you can really have your cake and eat it. And while we're talking about steering in comfort mode, it's not that responsive. I'm taking quite a tight bend here, and I don't feel like there's a lot of fuel there at all. But if you put it into dynamic sport mode, then you do get a bit more response from the steering, but it's still definitely not a strength of this car. Having said that, the handling side of things is pretty good. It's competent, and yeah, I have no complaints there. The suspension's pretty good, even on these 19s, soaks up the bumps pretty well. You can get adaptive air suspension for this car, and it will be amazing with that. But yeah, the suspension's decent enough. I don't have a lot of body roll, there's a little bit, but it's pretty sure-footed. You've got Quattro all-wheel drive, so you've got a lot of grip, and I do find taking a corner with confidence pretty good. So on a country road, I wouldn't say it's quite fun, but it's certainly not a concern. Visibility is really good as well. I've got a frameless mirror here, and that always helps. And then you've got really good visibility all around the car and over your shoulder, and you've got big wing mirrors, and yeah, it's really good for that. So no issues there. Plus you've got a rear view camera too. But yeah, these wing mirrors don't let any real noise in the cabin either, and just generally, something that's amazing about this car and Audis in general is noise insulation is so suppressed, and it's just so quiet and refined in here, and it's fantastic for that. I can really hear myself talk very clearly. It's just excellent for that, and it definitely, Audi leads the pack on that. But yeah, the blend of performance versus economy is really where I think the strengths are. This is still getting over 40 miles per gallon over a long period of time in mixed driving, and I think that's really pretty good considering the weight of this car and the fact that it does still do 0 to 60 in under 8 seconds, and it's got a lot of good mid-range pull. So yeah, you've got the amount of performance you need for a car like this. You could always have more performance, but I think it's got enough, and yet you're still getting decent fuel economy, so you're not going to be at the pumps every 5 seconds. Now, like BMWs and Mercedes, you don't get a lot of safety tech and autonomous driving tech as standard. In fact, there's very little I'm aware of in this particular model I'm driving. You have to option almost all of that. So there's no adaptive cruise control. You've got cruise control, and you've also got parking sensors and a rear view camera, as I said, but you do not have a lot of kit to say there's somebody in your blind spot or rear cross traffic alert or lane keep or any of that stuff. That's all part of option packs, which this car doesn't have. So if you are really looking for one that has a lot of autonomous driving tech and safety tech, then yeah, you really want to make sure as a used car you've checked to see if it's got those things already, because the chances are it's not going to have them. And if you were buying a Volvo XC60 in terms of competitors, yeah, you can be sure it will have a lot more of that. So if you were to lease one of these new, you would be somewhere in the region of about 550 to 650 a month with about a £5,000 deposit. You could get one of these 2018 plate with under 50,000 miles on the clock with decent spec on it as well for under 25 grand, and on a PCP with a similar deposit, you're probably looking at about 3 to 350 a month. That's a massive difference in your monthly payments. Okay, you're not got a car in warranty and you've got repair bills and all that and more risk and all that, but that's a big difference. And for me, that really makes me think there's something to be said for looking at a used one of these over buying a new one at this point in time when car prices are so ridiculously expensive new. Plus, you don't have a lead time to worry about, and the current lead time on new Audi Q5s is at least 5 to 6 months. And I'll bet in some cases it'll be even longer. And some of this car's rivals, you've got the Mercedes GLC, the BMW X3, the Porsche Macan, the Jaguar F-Pace, the Volvo XC60, you could go on and on and on. But some of those are more expensive as a used buy comparatively in terms of age and mileage. So that's another reason why this Q5 could be a really compelling package for you. Certainly though, compared to its rivals, it's maybe not going to be this as good in some areas, mainly the driving experience. There are ones that are designed to be all about that as SUVs, but if that's not important to you, I can't see any other areas where it really is inferior. Now, I've said this in other videos, but Audi tend to play it quite safe with the designs of their cars. And the Q5 is no different. I mean, there's things about this that make me think I'm looking at an Audi A4, an A5, an A6, a Q3, a Q7. They are very similar in a lot of ways. And if you really want a wow designed car, unless you're going for an RS model, you're not going to get that with an Audi. They are conservative, very classy and elegant looking cars. And if that's the look you're going for, this car, I think, really delivers on that. There's not much to really talk about at the front that's really worth saying, but LED headlights, I bet they're really sharp looking at night. Audi's headlight game is great. I don't know if this one has the optional matrix LEDs, but yeah, those headlights will still be really bright. Nice grille, just very classy at the front, pretty bulbous kind of looking bonnet. Yeah, it's got a real presence on the road. Very nice. Now the side view, it's nice. Yeah, there's a couple of nice creases and lines. It's the S-Line, so you've got an S-Line badge and you've got 19-inch alloys, which I think really works with this car. And if you like coupe type SUVs, well, the boot on this one feels a little bit almost coupe-like, so if that's your thing, yeah, that really works. And it's not the biggest car in the world dimensionally. It's only 4.6 and a bit meters long, and it's nearly 1.9 meters wide, so it's quite wide, but there's quite a lot of ground clearance there between the arch and the tyre. So I think in terms of an off-roader and having a good view of the road, this car really works. Now the back end, I really like it. It's got quite a bulky, meaty look on the road, I think. It's got some presence, and I really like Audi's rear LED taillights. So yeah, you know you're driving behind an Audi at night when you see these. And the one thing I'm a little bit about is obviously the design is very sloping for this boot, and yeah, that's the design. But for someone who's all about practicality, I feel a bit short-changed if I had this car by looking at it from this angle, because it's like you're really cutting off quite a lot of potential litres of space there. If you want to load this thing to gunnels for a family trip, yeah, that would kind of bug me in a way a little bit. But yeah, otherwise, the number here tells you which engine you've got, 40 TDI being the higher powered 2-litre diesel. And one other thing is, I want to say it's got fake exhaust, but I don't even know if you could call it that. So the real exhaust is underneath the car, but you've got these little black plastic covers here. I mean, you couldn't even do the car wow stick of truth and ram them in there, you know, they're just covers. It's like, come on guys, if you're going to do fake exhaust, at least do it right. Now let's look in the boot of the Q5, power tailgate. Takes a while to open, and yep, I also just realised I forgot to wash in this area, so sorry about that. But yeah, it's a pretty decent sized boot, 550 litres with the seats up. If you have the plug-in hybrid, it's quite a bit less, and if you have the seats down on this one, it's 1,550 litres, which is a fairly decent space. And you can put the seats down by pulling these levers, and they're 40, 20, 40 split fold in the standard, which is great. They don't seem to go down when you pull the levers, you've got to give them a wee push. But yeah, that's a pretty decent load bay, and there's a little bit of a lip there, so if you're sliding long things in, they might need a wee push to go over that bump. But other than that, yeah, it's a pretty good boot. You've got tie down points around here, and you've got a net and a couple of hooks. And underneath here though, because this has got the optional Bang & Olufsen sound system, you have a massive sub in here. So no space for a spare tyre, unfortunately, but I would be quite happy to sacrifice that for the sound system in this thing, but we'll talk about that in a bit. Yeah, this is a really decent boot, and the only thing that's not great is that if you want the reclining and sliding back and forth back seats, you have to get them as an option pack. I really don't know why Audi does stuff like that, but hey, that's just Audi. That's the lock button. Why is it not locking? Okay, we'll just close it then. Now, practicality in the back of the Q5 is pretty good. Knee room isn't absolutely fantastic though. For a mid-size SUV, I thought it'd be slightly better. My seats are in driving position, I'm 5'9", and I don't have a huge amount of knee room, and there's recesses in the back of the seats. I wouldn't say that was a massive strength, but you do have a lot of room underneath the seats to put your feet, so that does help. And then you've got a lot of headroom as well. So if you've got people that have got really long upper halves of their body, they'll be extremely comfortable. This isn't the widest car in the world. Their two seats are Alcantara and soft and squidgy, just like the front. The middle one is narrower and it's leather and it's raised up a bit. So it's not really a three-seater back here for long journeys. But the thing that's bothering me about this is you need to have this storage pack to get a few niceties that this car doesn't have, like pockets in the back of the seats and the reclining and sliding seats I talked about. And also cup holders on the center armrest. You don't have any cup holders here, which is just ridiculous. So that really sucks. So if you're looking for one of these as a used car, make sure it's got that pack if that's something that's going to bother you, because the door bins, they're not like cup holders either, and they're quite rattly and plasticky, so things will rattle about in there like Lego and stuff. So yeah, that's not great. So you really need that pack if you've got kids back here, long journeys ideally. But yeah, it's a pretty comfortable place. You've got a couple of vents, 3-zone climate control, 12-volt socket. Windows don't go all the way down, which is important to note, but you've got a nice big visible area here, which is decent. Visibility forward is pretty good as well. So overall, it's pretty decent back here. There's something that Audi take the piss a wee bit with a lot is options packs for everything. And there's just certain things that you go, really? Why is that not standard? And you know, I've obviously touched on a couple already, but I'm pleased to report at this point, seats and a steering wheel are still standard. And the seats are very comfortable. In the S-Line and up, you get Alcantara, and they're really soft and squidgy. This one doesn't have the option pack that has electric memory seats, but you have got 4-way electric lumbar support and lots of good adjustment in the seat and thigh extensions. Yeah, you won't get a sweaty arse in the summer with these either, because they're not leather. You do have heated seats actually, but really, really comfortable seat, and yeah, really like that. Driving position is decent. I have been in Audis before where I felt a bit twisted, but steering wheel feels nice in the hand. It's nice thickness as well. Really lovely damped buttons, or just loads of them as well. I like a lot of buttons on my steering wheel, and they do that really well. Other quality, indicator stalks are really well damped. The door close, yeah, that's really high quality door close. And the center console, I mean, that just does not move at all. You could hit that with a sledgehammer, it would just laugh at you. Touch points, because you always touch up here, that's pretty soft, and not that soft here on the door or on the elbow point there, but the one here is amazing. I mean, that's like a couch. Go forward and back as well and ratchet up and down. I love that. Just find that just makes your body just feels more rested driving with something to lean on like that. I really love that, and you can still get your elbows touching these points and then the steering wheel at the same time. So I really feel like the whole driving position and the whole quality feel in here is very Audi. They have definitely not dropped the ball on that front. Cubbies, really good. Door bins, rubber mat on the bottom, which you don't get in the back, which is annoying. And they're quite big, they're quite deep. They're not cup holdery type ones, but they're pretty big. They get a lot of stuff in there, so that's good. And then you've got this little tray up at the front here that maybe back when like Nokia 3210s were out would have fitted a phone or something, but maybe get some change in there or something. You've got this little recess for your key, which is great. and yeah, if it's got other keys on your keyring, it'll still fit in that slot, so that's good. And that's a better solution actually than in the Q7, if I recall. The center bin here is, yeah, it's deeper also than in the Q7. I like that. It's got a USB and an aux port, rubber mat at the bottom, and this sliding wireless charging pad here, which is a good solution. And then you've got your cup holders, which are not the deepest. They've got teeth on them, so they'll hold a bottle in. This bottle holds really well, actually, but some bottles might struggle with that. If you've got short coffee cups, they'll be good, though. But yeah, that's pretty good. Glove box. That's a decent glove box. And you've also got SD cards slots as well. So that's good. Yeah, Cubbies, I'll give it a A-. So this car was facelifted in 2020. And yeah, RIP to the scroll wheel for this one. And yeah, they're doing that with all their Audis now, which is a real shame, because you've got a massive touchscreen, and it's a good touchscreen apparently. I've not tested it out yet, but whatever. I still think a little scroll wheel is both easier to use on the move, and the sound it makes alone is worth having. Just this lovely clicky buttons, the ASMR vibes you get from driving an Audi and playing with the buttons. Absolutely love all that. Just this whole center console is just so intuitive and easy to use. This gear stick doesn't get in your way, but it's also still feels nice to grab, and you can use it as a rest for your wrists when you're using your scroll wheel, or your little shortcut buttons, which are like braille. They're so easy to use when you're driving. You know, you're like, I know exactly where I'm putting my fingers and what I'm pressing. And then you've got this touchpad as well, and haptic feedback on it as well. And the touchpad you can write destinations on as well, so you can do a letter or a number, and that helps write postcodes quicker. And yeah, that actually is quite a useful solution, it turns out. I used to think they were silly, but they're really quite useful. So yeah, you've got just the right amount of buttons, and they're easy to see where they are. And then up here you've got your climate controls, all physical buttons again, hallelujah. And then you've got your drive mode select and other buttons below that. But everything is just so nice and satisfying to press. And you get haptic feedback on some of these buttons as well, which is brilliant. So this is just a great, easy system to use. And unfortunately, in more modern Audis and post 2020 in the Q5, some of this ain't as easy. But then you move on to the infotainment system, and it's just yet another value case for this as a used car prior to the 2020 facelift. And you've got this scroll wheel to operate your infotainment, and it's just so easy, just like in a BMW. Clicky, clicky, scrolly, scrolly, swipey, swipey. So simple, easy to find where you're going. You could be a total idiot and still figure this out in no time. You've got smartphone integration as well as standard, so that's brilliant. None of this, no Android Auto yet. You've got that and Apple CarPlay wired, but it really is good, all works. And then you've got a digital cockpit, which is just timeless. It's been like this for years now. I mean, I think it's like 2015 since this cockpit came out, and they've not had to do much to it. And why do you? Because it still does the job, and it still looks really modern, fresh, and customizable, and you can use your sat nav up there. And fantastic system, it really is. Loads of buttons on your steering wheel to make it easy to operate as well. The whole interface of all this, I cannot fault it. But aside from the tech pack I mentioned that this car has, which gives you this digital cockpit and this larger screen and wireless charging, you've also got an upgraded sound system in this car, and it's the Bang & Olufsen 19 speaker, 16 channel amplifier, 755 watt system. And yeah, the sub that was in the boot, banging. Really good upgraded sound system, and the car's so well insulated, sound deadened and all that. It does sound really good. So that is definitely a box I would tick if I was buying it new, or one I would look to have if I was looking for one of these used. However, the standard sound system in Audis is very good as well. And so if you're not a massive audiophile, you'll probably still find quite a lot of joy out of the standard sound systems I've seen in other Audis, and they're always decent, and they have a sub as well. So you don't often get that. So that might not be something you definitely need, but I'm glad this one's got it. So final thoughts on the Audi Q5. Well, I think if I was to summarise this as succinctly as possible, I would just say this is a fantastic all-rounder as a premium mid-size SUV. It really is great in a lot of areas, but not really terrible in any. There's just no obvious red flags. You know, it's not like it's got a terrible infotainment system like some of its rivals, or it's got really uncomfy seats like some cars, or whatever. You know, it's just doesn't seem to make any obvious compromises, and that's what I really like about it. But if you're looking for a driver's SUV, and some people do, you know, people that wish they had a weekend sports car but they don't, and they want their SUV to kind of be a jack of all trades, well, fine then, you know, this maybe isn't the one to go for, and some of its rivals will do that slightly better. But it's a really refined experience. The technology is great, the infotainment system is great, pre-facelift as well. You've still got the rotary wheel, so that's a really good thing about this as a used buy. And yeah, as a used buy, you can pick one up for a fairly decent price compared to a new one. So it's definitely something to bear in mind. But yeah, I really, really like this car, and I can see why there's so many of them on the roads, because it just ticks so many boxes. So anyway, those are my thoughts. I would love to know yours, so please leave me a comment below with your thoughts on the video and your experiences of driving a Q5. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a like, because it really helps the channel, and subscribe, because there's a lot more coming up. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.